Ghana is the largest supplier of cocoa to the global market. Cocoa beans from Ghana make up about 25% of the global supply. So the country is globally and widely known for the cocoa it produces, but not the chocolates. And so this episode of Food Chain, we want to delve into chocolate production. And so we paid a visit to Fairafric somewhere in Sohum to understand how they produce chocolate on a large scale locally in the country. Stay with us. My name is Prince Apia. Thank you for joining us. 70-year-old Akwesi Misa and his colleague Kwasi Jemfi will carry their last sack of cocoa beans from their farms to this area where they will dry them. They will do this for a reasonable number of hours, then leave them for the sun to complete the drying process.
Cocoa no de ebrea otia ziziga yebuni 7 days na webu fermentation na ya 7 days no ati wa yiyim no efo abahata se wie ni we de abedra abeko be 1 week uko na se wie wo ho pa de at least enu 1 week ne de na dry the dry so say dry a wa ubu umfa beans ni se na ubu ma mu se cocoa no a dry and send out their shed. Send out those self-fam no near Shassin and 9 would ask your dan. I say, I did the game no kissa, would dan down on hand in Unum now dan. Kukuno. Yeah. We know I said, Apa, what did you yet? What did you yet? And I do a benson pepper. And so, yeah. The way they are ben pepper and yet don't.
Akwasi Misa and his colleague farmers here at Okrase in the eastern region and other cocoa growing communities in Ghana are dependent on cocoa for their livelihoods. Though they are aware their efforts contribute significantly to Ghana's economy and export potential, its benefits they wish to get more.
Cocoa humanity Ayepa, so one gets a way, human yenas, I want Sada, who dear. Also, Ubenyania, Obedi. A woman say, Edu Mirubia, na lean seasons, ano, na, Ayama, Nemum, main crop on the bar, no year, now was Wenya. Nasa, what damn be now, Percy Usia, now was Wenya Kakra, nowadays to total blocks in a day, nowadays. In Kakakra, nay, we go so near you. Nemum Sikana Nayana, at times a man. So when Uber corner government release can cry, purchasing officers in it, Yina, the Nayana, Binum Ikipuscano, oh baby, Uka say a 1 bag and 2 bags also, the half bag. Now they could hear what they and yet. Until to me, who say if your government who so fina a purchasing clerks in you, into me who. The work was our bank face come, our bank face comes and say across world, the baby son also knows Ampa. Now the next say a banana on releases can income, and I say cocoa board the function won't release can income. Fan say may a farmer. It may be a cocoa. Some may town as a bit of a mission young for associate. Many scan Hamadia Bobra Papabi. This is Canama. Not just a wabrabo, Ayabasa.
Says Mufrana Bano. The any Yokia. It is a bank. Ama input to me afuna all the down and yani jewuma baby sometimes to come cocoa edumana be bafam so be up a cratch be up a so in the back office in the bank university na ve hina no kokodo ho ye case the abama na nimra kuya no ma won input adi abema nkuranhye na ne bakura ne nam ho no ro school kura owura school kura bakase me no kakranto so no ehun faso a ewo cocoa no muti a or yes, Edman. No, when young faso, ni papa grand young faso. No, no, baby, bro, who has me. You know that you want to say, young man, cocoa never found.
Young cocoa scholarship. Me, my by a 3. Ma try, what about what's in a yabo? Nay, say, what about what call fire service war? A sort of you can't. Baby, a fire service for one. Robert, near the book, Yako, or Beshima, me were passed with by 4 to 5. I am. wokwa na wode kwa wasi yo ya choro wo bewie no na afon unsanka na wafa na ti se wankasa nso wo bo wo ba na ata wonana na hoka ansa na wode na akọ nti scholarship de farmers de yenya bi.
A good number of them employ this very manual system to get the cocoa ready for the purchasing clerks, then by the produce buying companies. In other cocoa communities like Agogoso in the Fomena district of the Shanti region, cocoa farmers have similar challenges.
Ntiama yenya no bayi mfiri su ntiama sesi sika asem no ayedin ntiama sesi no sika kura di tonuru yenya bi na ayede atonuru agu kokoo no so ntiama sesi no kokoo dwuma ne de ayedin amanye pa di obi kura pese wade ne hye kokoo dwuma mu a aye ne den se wade ne hu bewura mu ntiama boys no kura no kokoo dwuma no mo pese wo mo de wo mo hu ebewura mu ye ne edi ka wo mu no ye hunu mfaso obi a yenya firi mu ntiama ne ye no kura ayedin amanye anu nso nko ani kurase ya adwuma kuta ya wa ha ni adwuma bia anu ntama asetena ma ye dena ma ye pa ama abrabo mu ye school hwe nkura no yentumi enhwe wo mo nti ameduru ba bia na nkura na esi ye toa wo mo so no na yentumi nye sika na ye de atoa wo mo so na ma wo ma disua no akofom kura.
The cocoa beans produced by these farmers are mostly exported and used to make a number of products, including especially chocolate. Though the demand for chocolate continues to grow, especially on the world market, there are few factories producing locally to meet the demand. It sits on a 2.43-acre land at Tuhum in the eastern region. Their story is interesting because they are the first solar-powered chocolate factory with 100% organic content. The company has the potential to produce 50 million bars of chocolate annually. For improved local production, not only for Fairafric, but other local producers and factories, there are calls for government to institute pragmatic measures and policies that would encourage local production and local consumption of chocolate. Well, this is the first phase or first point of call here at the Fairafric Chocolate Manufacturing Factory. We are here to speak to the managers and the production crew to understand how chocolate is produced locally. In fact, organic manufacturing of chocolate here in Ghana. Stay with us and enjoy the discussion.
Well, once again, welcome to Fairafric Ghana Limited. We are into the production of organic chocolate with real inclusions. We are not doing the flavored type of. When we say real inclusion, then what it means that the inclusions that we add, as in the nibs, hazelnut, almonds, and the rest, they are truly hazelnut and almond, and not a flavored, artificial flavored type of. That's what we basically do here, and we are the first company using solar. So we are solar-powered chocolate factory at the moment in the country, and the biggest actually producers of chocolate in the country. Yeah. Now, the raw materials we use, basically that is the beans, but actually we don't do the primary processing here. So we buy the beans and we send it to a company known as Chocomac. They're in tema-free zones. So they produce into cocoa liquor, butter, and powder. So we receive it here as a semi-finished product. So we store our skim milk powder, our cocoa powder, and then our sugar at the dry warehouse. And then in the wet warehouse, that's where we store liquor and butter in blocks. And of course, the finished goods warehouse, that's where we keep our finished products, that chocolate finished product in bars. So from the warehouse, when we are ready to produce, actually, and depending on which recipe we are doing, first of all, we have to make a request from the warehouse. and then we bring it to the floor. We have the flexibility either to use cocoa powder or cocoa liquor. But basically, in all our production, we use cocoa liquor for our production. But it depends on the customer specification. If the customer demanded that he wants cocoa powder to be used, then of course we have that flexibility to do that. So when we receive, as you can see, we have
That's the Chocomac.
yes, from Chocomac. So that's the cocoa butter currently we have. We have same for the cocoa liquor in blocks. So when we are about to start, first of all, we need to remelt these blocks back to liquid state. So we use this equipment known as melters. Okay, so that's where we melt the liquor, cocoa liquor, and then the butter into liquid. Now, when it comes to food safety and food quality, we don't really compromise at all. So what we do is we've introduced a sieve and a magnet on the line, okay, so that in case this material or this semi-finished product comes with any strenuous materials or maybe metallic pieces, we will be able to trap all before it gets into the line, because it will be so awful for a customer to take in chocolate and you'll be chewing some metals, you know. Food safety is not good for us. You can lose the customer. And also, it's also not good for our machinery or our equipment. It can cause a lot of damages. Incidentally, some metal pieces, both or not, have entered into the product and maybe it has not been reported, and it might cause harm to whoever takes in it, also the equipment. So we don't take chances. So that's why we introduce the magnet and then the sieve, so that if it comes with any of these, we should be able to trap it before we introduce that into our system. So when everything is melted into liquid, then we pump the whole thing. We pump both the liquor and the butter into the mixer. That's the first stage of the processing. So we do the mixing there. But again, depending on the recipe, currently we are doing dark and then milk. We are doing dark chocolate and dark plain and milk plain with the various inclusions. Currently we have about 11 inclusions we are doing here. So if you are doing milk, of course, then of course we have to introduce the skim milk powder also. But if you are doing dark, then of course it's just the butter, the sugar, and then the liquor. Okay. So after mixing has been done, the product comes out not solid, not liquid, but in the molten state, and we are able to transport that, okay, or transfer that on this belt, and then it goes to the first stage of milling, okay.
Which is this machine?
Yes, so that's the first stage of milling after mixing is done. And like I said, the product comes out in the molten state. So here, by its name, it's a two-roller refiner. This is where we refine whatever comes from the mixer. Refining in the sense that, you know, when you put the chocolate in your mouth, you want it to melt smoothly on the tongue. You know, you don't want to do some additional chewing and other stuff. So it takes care of any grittiness in either the liquor or the sugar, because you know the sugar is gritty. So by its name, we have two rollers running against each other, and the rollers are being cooled, because as they run against each other, we generate a lot of heat, and we need to cool it, but it's not also good for the product. So this is able to, whatever comes in here is able to refine it to a fineness between 80 to 120 microns, okay, which is really very fine. And then from there, it's discharged into a screw, and then it comes onto this belt, this time not in a molten state, but in chunks. Not too hard, not too soft also, but in chunks. And then from there, it's conveyed on this belt onto the final milling stage, and that is the 5-roller refiner. Okay. So here we have the 5-roller refiner here. So by its name, we have 5 rollers in there running against each other. So we discharge everything, or gradually, between the first 2 rollers down here, and then by way of adhesion, and then using different temperatures of the rollers, we are able to transport or transfer the product from one roller to the other, and then it moves on to the last roller on top. Okay. And then at the back of that last roller, we have a scraper at the back, so that we are able to scrape off all the product on the surfaces of the roller onto a steel belt, and that also comes in the flaky, in the powdery and the flaky form. This time,
but a bit finer than.
Yeah, so here it's able to give us between 14 to 20 microns.
Okay.
Too fine, very, 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 very fine, and then everything is transported to the conch. Now at the conching stage, that is where we do flavor development of the mass that we have in there. So basically, that is the essence and the purpose of conching. Here we have hot water jacketed. That is, there's hot water going around the product. And then we have a stirrer in the stirring at different speed and at different rotation. Okay, so different rotation tells you what will happen to the product. Okay, and there we do what is known as dry conching and wet conching. So first of all, we start with dry conching, okay, and then we move on to wet conching. Wet conching is where we add more butter to the product in there already. Even though the cocoa liquor comes with some amount of butter flavor, but we also add more butter to that when we are doing wet conching. So one is for flavor development. Two, you are able to reduce some amount of bitterness, because the cocoa beans can
be very bitter.
Some bitterness.
Yeah, some bitterness.
And depending on the recipe, because we have 70% dark, we have 80% dark, we have 92% dark. So depending on the percentage of the high cocoa content in it, you have to conch for so long. So the higher the cocoa content, the higher the conching time. So lab comes in to take samples where we do sensory analysis as to the astringents, the taste, the look, whether it look glossy, and they do complete sensory analysis. And if it goes through or it passes, then we need to transfer that into the storage tanks. But even with that, we still introduce a sieve and a magnet again. But we realize that the food contact surfaces are metallic, and with time, you can have metal shavings in the powdery form you might not see with the naked eye. So we don't assume everything is perfect. So we have those magnet and the sieve there, so that in case we have these metal shavings coming from the food contact surfaces of the equipment, we should be able to take care of it before it gets to the molding section. We are learning how to crawl, how to walk, and how to run. So we don't want to start by running first. We want to start crawling, and now we are almost getting to run now. We've almost passed the crawling stage.
Okay, sure.
And in the Ghanaian market, chocolate is considered as a luxurious, because especially in this locality, you don't expect somebody to take 10 Ghana cedi to buy chocolate. Unless somebody buys for him, or there's a lottery or something. They would rather prefer buying food, kenke or fufu or something with it. So we need to create the awareness. We need to educate people why they should take, especially organic chocolate, and why they should take our chocolate. And also gradually we are penetrating into the, we don't want to really pounce on the
I'm still here at the production house of Fairafric, and the chocolate production is still going. So after a long while, this is what the cocoa is turned into. It becomes the bars that are expected to get onto the market. And what is happening here is the quality assurance. Of course, they ensure that the chocolate going out is of high quality and has no external impurities in there. And so soon our chocolate is ready for consumption, and the packaging is going on over there. After the chocolate is ready, marketing is next. Ishmael Kwe is the marketing lead for Fairafric.
So basically what Fairafric is trying to do is to increase Africa's value chain in the chocolate industry worldwide. So in the factory, after the chocolate has gone through the various process to be produced, we make sure that we export some of these products. And I'd like to mention that all of these products are international standard and they have various certifications that has been given to us. So they are exported and some are sold locally in Ghana. But currently our local market is a bit, let me say, developing, and what marketing is doing in the company is trying to understand the consumer market before we can scale. So we've done a couple of events, pop-up stores, as well as some invites here and there, just to understand what makes the consumer purchase or why they are interested in our products really. What we've observed is that our local markets do not really know how to eat chocolate, if that's the right word to use, or do not really understand why they should eat chocolate. So over the period, over the years, the urge to purchase or use chocolate is to probably gift it out to somebody, a loved one, or use it to woo a woman. You know, that is what our local people are used to. However, there are some psychological effects or some psychological advantages of using chocolate. It is a mood regulator. It actually regulates your mood, makes you feel, you know, happy, light, excited, sort of, and as well as also gives you positive vibes, right? Whenever you eat chocolate, you feel happy to be able to work, and it makes you lovable. So the Aztecs invested in hot chocolate, and they call it chocolate. And this is what they used over the period. And they observed that whenever they take it, they are able to function more happily and excitedly. And I think that this is something that inferred into our act or our culture right now with regards to how we see cocoa. But there's more to chocolate than what we are used to. And we want to extensively campaign or educate the masses about the need to eat chocolate, and not just any chocolate, but 100% organic chocolate. By organic, we mean that these beans have been cultivated without the use of pesticides, right on the farm to the processing storage houses. So we sample and resample every year to make sure that these cocoa beans are 100% organic. And we are partnering with YGL, which is Yaya Glover Limited, to ensure that we get 100% organic beans. And because of this feat, it's not easy to maintain the organic culture. So we pay more premium to ensure that the farmer is able to pay the laborers and able to also keep their children in school, thereby not discouraging the farmer to tend to pesticides to control the farm, and also to keep the child in school and avoid child labor. So currently we invest about $600 per ton in every cocoa beans that we purchase, and we believe that this goes a long way to impact on the farmer positively and to also ensure that some of these needs are met.
These farmers work assiduously to produce the cocoa beans for manufacturers for chocolate production, but often it is said that few of them have had the privilege to taste a bar of chocolate. Kwesi Jemfi and his brother Kwesi Emisa back in the Okrasi community had the privilege to have a bite and a taste of a bar of chocolate we sent to them.
No question, cocoa need the Fiasino. Yen kwala na yen say cocoa adwuma yen papa no mo ho aye boa won ne ade no. Na cocoa no we say e bi de abinchi eno kwota kwara side. Na papa no so kwotema. Ndi temade no na ayi temade de kwabruchi na hade na ye we say chocolate ne ho niam na chocolate we say ayi na so a we say bia we farmer ndi chocolate wa ye na bia aba na beje bi anas wo tonkora na kotoduwa da bi oye wi asan departmental store so ya na beko ndu hwe na akondo na je wakotobi wakotobi
sir just wa wokoto la wokoto de ya oye na mom se obi de ba cha wo se je ne di ne de anya no kore. Oh, why not? me to me be tea ana nya ba kwa wa ya ne say chocolate no and so me to be edi because one my art as say build body at the mouth nti yetumi edi bi na mo say pa say wo ba ka say wo ye cocoa farm nti ye bre obi say wo si di ana say wo adwuma na wo ye na so fa so de so chocolate de ana say wa price at wo nti wo kona ne a wo ba to no wo ye ya o ebi o asa 1 cedi a wa to 2 cedis a na wo ya na wa to and ha wo na wo pe na wo pe say wo di na build wo body mo nti ande anya di bi a ye ba ka say ne bono a ha ya gena na say ya oh nya me pa say me ka twetu na say won mu ayen na yen adwuma no mfaso mra ho even at all say baby am every 70 years 70 years no me gusi ye farming sa me kwa pension wo yeah farming mu a den na menya me nya snake wo me nya bibia wo what is it wo na nse say be nya mfaso ayi wo ba mayen say conquer pension scheme asat now yenti ye hu hwe ndi say me go sisi ana me da ho a me farming no say mentumi ankwa enema bebre be say ndi say wo ba mayen pension scheme dia wo momodin no wo fa mayen.
Well, to be able to close the economic potential gap between Ghana's chocolate industry and the global market, it is very important that more investment is made in a local industry that will encourage more local processes of cocoa into chocolate. Until then, Ghana will continue to lose in this sector and will only be known for its cocoa production. This should be it for this week's edition of Food Chain. My name is Prince Apia. Thank you for joining us. See you same time in the next episode.